Officials say the European Union's interior ministers will meet this coming week to discuss breaches of the bloc's external borders. 60,000 Moroccan migrants entered the Spanish enclave of Ceuta in just a day. At least 67 people died in the attempt. Some countries want Spain suspended from the EU's borderless Schengen zone. Spanish officials say most of the migrants have now been sent back.
Police and military escorting migrants off Spain's Ceuta exclave. A disappointing end to a risky journey. This man was so exhausted that medics had to help him get back to Morocco. Many migrants have been left frustrated and angry. They risked so much trying to get to Ceuta, only to be turned away, or in some cases met with threats and violence.
My name is Imad. I entered Ceuta via the sea crossing. The Spanish said they treated us well. They did not. First, they closed all shops and stopped us being able to get food. They treated us harshly. They took up arms against us and threatened to kill us. We saw people who died in front of us. This is a shame for Moroccans like us. We were targeted by the Moroccan community in Ceuta.
According to Spain's interior minister, things are now returning to normal.
It
has also been possible to turn the situation around in such a short space of time, thanks to our resolute and ongoing collaboration with Moroccan authorities, with whom we maintain an ongoing partnership based on trust and hard work, which has developed over recent years.
With tensions on the ground easing, he also thanked most of Spain's European partners for their support. With the exception of a few countries he said selfishly used this situation to further their partisan goals. Italy, for one, temporarily lifted its Schengen agreement with Spain on Friday. But now, new preventative measures are being put into place. This is the floating barrier that's meant to deter another migrant surge, a visible sign for these returning migrants that a future attempt to reach Ceuta will be harder.
A view of all this now from the EU with DW Brussels correspondent Teri Schultz. Teri, good to see you. Pedro Sanchez has called this a violation of Spain's territorial sovereignty, but he's also pushed back hard against countries like Italy, which appear to be trying to isolate Spain over this. Are other EU countries backing Madrid's version of events?
Not so much, Michael. And if you're Spain, you certainly do feel isolated today after feeling that you basically did your duty in getting most of these people back to Morocco. Now, let's take a look at the different responses that have come out of not just Brussels, but the European Union as a whole. And it's very, very messy, Michael. So taking a look, for example, at European Council President Antonio Costa. Now, normally, responses at the EU level are coordinated, but Costa's post on X about the Ceuta incident says that he personally stands in solidarity with Spain. And the Irish Interior Minister, whose country holds the 6-month rotating presidency of the Council of the European Union at the moment, similarly came out and said Ireland stands in solidarity with Spain. And he did agree to hold this meeting of interior ministers on Tuesday. But this contrasts sharply with what we saw from Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission chief. Her message on X said nothing about solidarity with Spain. Instead, she said that these scenes that they see coming out of Ceuta are unacceptable and that none of these people must be allowed to enter the European Union. She talks about assigning a couple of staffers to help work on the crisis, but nothing at all about, again, solidarity with Spain. And then we have this letter of 22 prime ministers, which was calling for this meeting of interior ministers that will now take place. And it was very critical of Spain and talking all about how the migrants cannot be allowed to enter the European Union. It's about a crisis in the potential, Schengen border-free zone, but not speaking in solidarity with Spain. In fact, there's some criticism of Spain's plan, for example, to regularize migrants. So this is a very touchy situation. It's very ugly at the moment, and it could get uglier as these meetings unfold this week.
And I'm going to single out Italy. Rome suspended its open border Schengen agreement with Spain, and France has tightened its own border checks. How much damage has this done to freedom of movement in the EU, even as most of the migrants have already returned to Morocco?
Yeah, Spain was outraged about that and called in the Italian ambassador to complain about this 1-month suspension. So you can see that goodwill between neighbors is certainly in short supply here. Now, this letter from the 22 prime ministers, of which, of course, Spain did not sign it, acknowledges that none of these people made it out of Spain. So they're saying that basically Spain did everything it needed to do in protecting the freedom of movement. But as you mentioned, this 1-month suspension is really getting on Spain's nerves. And countries as far north as Finland said that they were going to strengthen their internal border checks. Now, it's pretty unlikely that any of those people would have made it all the way up to Finland, but it just shows how neuralgic this issue is. So at the moment, it doesn't appear that this incident will have a longer term impact than perhaps this 1-month suspension by Italy of the border-free situation arrangements. But in terms of the feeling, the solidarity between countries, I think there we're really seeing some damage.
Meanwhile, the mayor of Ceuta says the crisis is not really over, even though most of the migrants have returned to Morocco. What is the EU prepared to do to prevent another incident like this one? And only briefly, if you can, Teri.
Yeah, that's exactly what this meeting on Tuesday is going to talk about. What more can be done to prevent this from happening? Ursula von der Leyen has already said she's assigning some members of her staff to help Spain look at what can be done to strengthen the borders, including with the EU's border agency, Frontex. But we'll really have to see what measures come out of this meeting of interior ministers. And again, Spain is very much going to be looking for signs of solidarity and some recognition that it did get all of these people back out of EU territory very, very quickly.
As always, really appreciate it. Teri Schultz, DW Brussels correspondent.
Thank you.
DW's Jan-Philipp Scholz is in Ceuta. He told us more about the migrants crossing back into Morocco.
I would say around 90% have left, but 90% have 60,000 or even more still leaves several thousand here in the small enclave. Yes, the beaches are emptier now, but as you can maybe see behind me, there is still a lot of police and military on the streets, and also still a lot of migrants. I would say a few thousand are really trying to stay here. There are still flashes with authorities. For example, some migrants are trying to get into the overwhelmed shelters. And the problem is that there is just no room, there is no food or drinks for them. So they're desperately trying to enter these shelters, and they're being pushed back by the authorities. And of course, the police is also trying more and more, and also with more robust numbers to push them towards the border.